Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, and man, it's just another day ending in Y with another Disney Star Wars project completely and totally failing in the ratings. And ladies and gentlemen, none of that is in Skelton Crew itself. Yes, the most recent premiere out there for Disney Plus in Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars universe out there. Well, guess what? It's just done the exact same thing that so many of these others have absolutely done. It's one of those situations where we've watched this happen. We've recorded it. We've documented it. We paid attention to it. We've watched the decline of Disney Star Wars shows from Mandalorian Season 1 all the way now down to Skelton Crew. And the one consistent trend line you can see throughout the entire situation out there is nothing more than a downward slope in the ratings over and over again, boys and girls. And now with the official Nielsen ratings numbers have come in, we can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that Skelton Crew is an absolute abysmal flop, boys and girls, because when you find out where this thing ended up on its premiere when it came to Nielsen ratings, well, I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to deny that, boys and girls, Disney Star Wars is indeed a dead brand, and everybody over there at the Disney Corporation are completely and totally responsible for showing us the fastest way to burn billions of dollars in literally a decade and turn what was once the great money printing machine that was Star Wars to a point now where Rey herself's lightsaber is being discounted over there in Galaxy's Edge, as well as this disastrous dumpster of a ratings fire. And ladies and gentlemen, this is just more solid, undeniable proof that Disney Star Wars is a failed brand. And you can love the show. I've heard basically kind of like middling things about Skelton Crew, that it's not bad, that it's actually pretty decent, yada, yada, yada. But just the apathy that is going on among the Star Wars fan base out there is something that you cannot deny, because once you burn a giant portion of your audience out there with ridiculous mistakes and stupid storytelling tropes out there, well, guess what? At the end of the day, it will continue to be like that, and you will never get a very good portion of those back. And clearly nothing Disney Star Wars has done since they've owned the franchise has pushed the needle and actually drawn fans back in a very long time. And Skelton Crew and its ratings are just the latest example of that. So we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com and get into all of the juicy details and see exactly how bad the numbers are, because whether or not you like the show or not, 2 + 2 still equals 4, and this show is a flop. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,500. We're on our way to 1,600 on this new channel that we've got over here, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. What did you think of Skelton Crew? Have you watched it? Have you enjoyed the show? Are you just another one of those apathetic Star Wars fans out there and that can't stand anything that Disney Star Wars does? Or are you one of those hopeful out there that maybe at some point things will actually get better? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. All opinions are welcome as always, but don't deny the truth, boys and girls, because 2 + 2 still equals 4. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Montanero, Skelton Crew is Star Wars' greatest failure. Disney Star Wars, mind you. Let's get it right. Record low ratings could mean Star Wars is a dead brand. Could mean, come on now. I mean, have you seen things lately? I don't think this is going anywhere. Skelton Crew, the latest live-action Star Wars series. And by the way, how did that Reva lightsaber get funded for that? Oh, that's right, it didn't. Has achieved a dubious milestone by failing to chart on any major streaming rating measurement platforms. This puts the show at the bottom of the franchise's already struggling offerings, earning the unenviable title, earning the unenviable title of the lowest performing Star Wars project to date. The series starring Jude Law, which great actor, should have been a draw for something like this, and targeting a younger audience with a mix of Stranger Things vibes and Star Wars lore, has been met with overwhelming apathy rather than the excitement or outrage. And I already know there's going to be the comments out there, well, this was meant for kids, so a lot of people weren't going to watch it anyway, yada, yada, yada. It's Star Wars. Do you know how many grown men watched every single episode of the Clone Wars series out there? Both versions. Do not even give me that nonsense as a BS excuse. And anyway, what about it? I thought the whole of Star Wars was for kids. Come on now, boys and girls. We all know those are BS and nonsense, like gaslighting kind of BS arguments. Come on now. At the end of the day, the truth is the truth. Nielsen recently released its top 10 streaming charts for the week of Skelton Crew's 2-episode premiere, and the results for Star Wars reflect those previously shown by outlets like Luminate. Skelton Crew was a non-entity. It failed the chart in any way, and as you can see right here, you've got The Madness, Black Doves, Landman, which I hear really great things about Landman too, Special Ops Lioness, The Ultimatum, Marry or Move On, A Man on the Inside, Cross, Cold Case, Who Killed John Benet Ramsey, that doesn't surprise me, that's doing well, Tulsa King, another great show, and The British Baking Show. The Great British Baking Show beat a Star Wars television show, boys and girls. Do you understand that? Do you get that? Okay, literally, The Great British Baking Show beat Star Wars, The Skelton Crew in ratings when it premiered. Its premiere week. Skelton Crew is a non-entity. To put Skelton Crew's performance in perspective, consider the benchmark set by other Disney Plus series and the competition on Nielsen Streaming's original list. The lowest spot on Nielsen's latest chart belongs to The Great British Baking Show, with 382 million minutes watched. Since Skelton Crew failed to make the list, its total viewership was below that figure. With 2 episodes released, this means the series average was under 191 million minutes per episode, a troubling statistic for Star Wars property. For comparison, The Acolyte, which was supposed to be the least, the Acolyte, I was thinking about Andor, and this is like worse than Andor. And Andor was like one of the lowest watched shows for a long time in Disney Star Wars history. For comparison, The Acolyte debuted with its first 2 episodes earning 488 million minutes viewed, an average of 244 million minutes per episode. Even Andor, which premiered with 3 episodes, managed 642 million minutes, pointing at an average of 208. Both of these shows outperformed Skelton Crew significantly, despite the Acolyte facing lukewarm fan reception and Andor being touted as a slower-paced niche offering within the Star Wars universe. I mean, literally, even the critics out there didn't like The Acolyte, even with all of the nonsense about all the diversity, inclusion, and equity, and the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. Like, literally, it was one of them situations where it was so cringe, it was so over the top that even the acolytes of the cult out there, the legacy media institutions, couldn't shill for that show. It was that bad, and it still did better in the ratings than Skelton Crew. And both of those shows are considered major failures. The Acolyte was literally canceled within like a month of that series' final premiere happening. And it wasn't just like quietly happening. This was reported in the legacy media out there. We're talking Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, those kind of folks. So yeah, needless to say, we're probably not going to see a Skelton Crew season 2 anytime either. This marks a new low for Star Wars under the Disney stewardship. While previous entries generated polarized responses or modest viewership, Skelton Crew seems to have been met with outright disinterest. With a franchise built on engaging audiences and dominating pop culture fails to outperform a baking show, the question surrounding its future becomes unavoidable. Adding to the mystery, Samba TV, a service that often reports on streaming viewership, has remained silent about the show's performance. And obviously, that's a big part of the fact that like Disney owns like a 40% stake in Samba. So yeah, they were definitely making sure that Samba didn't say absolutely squat about this show because how bad they knew the numbers were. And of course, Disney's got the internal numbers, and I'm sure they know exactly how bad this is, which is why they told Samba TV to keep their mouth shut on this one. So this follows a pattern in which poor-performing Disney Plus series often go unmentioned, raising questions about how the platform measures and markets its content. Disney also, is an investor in Samba. We talked about that. The lackluster performance of Skelton Crew is more than just a single series failure. It's emblematic of a larger problem within the Star Wars franchise. Under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership at Lucasfilm, a brand once celebrated for its ability to unite generations of fans has seemingly lost its magic. Once a cultural phenomenon that could sell out theaters and dominate merchandise shelves, Star Wars now struggles to even inspire a fraction of its former enthusiasm. The franchise hasn't had a theatrical release since 2019, and Hasbro, the company that owns the Star Wars toy license, is standing on the brink of financial ruin. The issues that plague modern Star Wars are the same that plague modern Disney as a whole. Unimaginative storytelling, creators obsessed with self-inserts. Hi, Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah, we're talking about you. No respect for the source material, and an embrace of divisive identity politics as the driving force behind the story and marketing of new products. And also just the fact that you literally have a company that decides to talk down to its customers. It talks down to its fans. It treats them like they're idiots and they're a bunch of ists and phobes and everything else just because they disagree with what they're doing. So yeah, of course, this stuff is going to go on, and they're going to talk about more of the history and everything else. But at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. They have taken what was probably at one point, if not in in history the largest money printing merchandising machine the world has ever seen, that pop culture has ever seen with Star Wars. I mean, there was literally new Star Wars toys coming out every year for Christmas. New versions and new editions, literally, and they hadn't had a movie come out in like 20, 30 years. I remember there was still a huge Star Wars section at Walmart and Toys R Us, rest in peace, so to that homie, and KB Toys and everything else. You used to have giant walls. I mean, you would take up a third of the aisle with just Star Wars stuff. And now where do you see that merchandise? You see it at Ollie's. Now it takes up entire rows at an Ollie's, which is a bargain bin discount store. It's where when stuff doesn't sell at Walmart or these other major brands out there, that's where it goes to get discounted and get thrown out essentially with the trash. And this is what's happened. Disney Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy's tutelage has completely and totally destroyed the brand. She tried to turn it into a girls brand. She tried to go after this new modern audience that simply doesn't exist. And guess what? The majority of the fans don't want anything to do with it. We just want good escapism. We want a good space opera with characters we know and love, and that respects the source material and respects everything that came before, that respects George Lucas's vision, which is clearly something Kathleen Kennedy has had no desire to do since she took over. And guess what? Disney Star Wars, you have done this to yourself. Bob Iger, you are the one that allowed her to put in there. And honestly, George Lucas, to a certain degree, holds responsibility for this because allegedly she was his hand-picked successor. How did that work out? You literally turned into something that was literally $1 billion franchise into now something that gets beat by the British baking show literally when your show premieres on the Nielsen charts. That is pathetic. That shows you that this is nothing more than a loss of money, that Star Wars has become a money pit for Disney instead of being the money printing machine it was forever. And guess what? Whether you like Skelton Crew or not, it doesn't matter. The ratings are what the ratings are. The numbers are what the numbers are. 2 plus 2 still equals 4, and Skelton Crew is a complete and total Disney Star Wars disastrous dumpster fire of a flop. And you can't deny that.